Hello everyone, wherever you are and whenever you are. We're here with the deck tech for this Bant Superfriends deck. We're about to run through a friendly modern league. I'll say right off the bat that this deck is pretty much modeled straight after, pretty much copy and pasted right from the Superfriends deck that Jeff Hoogland has been playing now and again within the past month or so. It's just something a little different, off the beaten track. I know I've been talking about Esper. I've been wanting to get something in Esper colors off the ground that I just can't find a list in those colors right now that I'm really feeling good about and everything. So I'll probably just end up grabbing something in Esper and just running it through a league anyway, and just kind of crashing it on the rocks of modern degeneracy. But either way, so here we have a deck. That is, you'll see some familiar faces here to what most of the regular blue-white decks are playing in Modern right now. And this deck seeks to go from a slightly different angle here. So of course, Super Friends implies that we are running an above-average number of Planeswalkers, which of course we are. In this case, we are running, of course, Teferi here of Dominaria, because he is very, very good and is kind of like a Swiss Army knife for these type of decks. Jace, because, well, you know, Jace broke Modern and everything, so he needs to be in the deck as well. And then I was kidding, by the way, for anyone who's not familiar with my sense of sarcasm. Jace, of course, is extremely fine in Modern and is oftentimes, I think, below medium as a draw, based on what the rest of the format's doing. But anyway, Gideon of the Trials, you know, clocking in as just another Planeswalker, very defensive, but then can also turn the corner very quickly, help us to close out games. And then we're also running a Nissa Vastwood Seer / Nissa Sage Animist. So we'll touch on this in a minute, but this deck also has a slight ramp element just to try to get it to some of its top-end cards a little earlier. That's one of the things where in the normal blue-white deck, you know, you have these big expensive cards and you're looking to play them, but of course, due to the rules of Magic, you only get to make one land drop per turn, etc., etc. So the earliest turn that you can deploy some of your biggest threats is usually a little later in the game. So that's why we're also playing 4 Sakura-Tribe Elders, just to kind of ramp us into some of our bigger cards, and especially in the case we have to hard cast the Terminus, but more on that in a minute. So Nissa Sage Animist is actually a pretty crazy control card here. So her +1 ability basically draws you it draws you a card. You know, it either puts it in your hand or right onto the battlefield. So again, you can just start piling on more lands there. The -2 is actually sometimes surprisingly relevant. A 4/4 can close out games pretty quickly on an empty board, and of course, the ultimate just wins you the game. So similarly with Teferi, if you can protect him up to his ultimate, then he also closes out the game very quickly, especially in conjunction with the Jace. So those are the Planeswalkers here that we run. And the rest of these cards are probably pretty familiar to you. Courser Kruphix is just another really interesting card that plays pretty well with what the control deck's looking to do. You know, it protects you, it lets you get additional value off of lands and things like that. Also gains you a little bit of life, helps you make it to the later game. A little main deck. I don't want to say insurance, but a little something in the burn matchup. You know, which is always good to have in a control deck, especially since we're not playing any timely reinforcements in our main deck. So of course the Detention Sphere is our normal catch-all answer in blue-white colors. And then of course 4-path, because, well, we're running blue-white control and Hallowed Fountains in Modern, so we need those in order to try and keep our opponents from just running us over. Search for Azcanta likewise becomes an additional land in the later game and just helps us churn through our deck when we need to find those specific answers. So, of course, we're also playing Terminus over Supreme Verdict in this deck. There's very, very few things in Magic, especially in Modern, that I feel just about as strongly about right now and have a strong opinion about, but I think that I don't think the question at this point is Terminus or Supreme Verdict. I think the answer to the question is definitely Terminus, and the answer is 4, because this card is just BANANAS. This is what allows us to... This is what gives us a chance to hang with what these crazy other modern decks are doing right now. And as a whole, I don't think this deck is better positioned than typical blue-white, but it plays a lot of fun cards. And again, if you are going to register a control deck in any modern organized tournament or anything like that, I think that you got to enjoy playing this deck, or else if you're there to win, this is not a good choice. I wouldn't even say that blue-white is a good choice at this point. We're here because we play these decks and we love these decks, and no matter how hostile the meta is to our favorite form of play, we're just going to play it anyway, because this is what we like to do. If we can't cast Cryptic Command, then we just, there's no other deck for us in the format. So it might be a little dramatic, but you get the idea. So, yep. So alongside of our Terminus, we of course run our Jace, as mentioned, and Opt in order to help us set it up and to get those instant speed Termini rolling on our opponent's turns to wipe away their free 4/4s and 3/3s and what all the other creatures they've cheated onto the battlefield by turn 2. So, lands pretty straightforward. We got a couple Colonnades, got a couple Field of Ruins, some concessions here to running into the third color, and sideboard real quick. So we just have our normal white card spell suite here. A little bit of Grave Hate, Artifact Hate, Celestial Purge, of course, great against things like Liliana and Blood Moon, being the first, I think, the big primary targets. Blessed Alliance is kind of interesting. That's definitely, I think, a flex slot, but we'll just run it, see how it goes. Got a pair of Vendilion Cliques for the combo type and or the Tron matchups. Likewise, we also have some Damping Spheres. Tireless Tracker can come in, I guess, in any type of a really grindy matchup where we might just be looking for a couple additional threats to bring in against our opponents. This card is pretty nuts as well once it gets rolling. And again, it combos for some really crazy value with things like Sakura-Tribe Elders and Coursers. So only one counterspell to bring in out of the sideboard. So we're a little light on counter magic. We don't even run a dispel. So again, in a matchup like Burn, we're gonna be leaning really hard on some of our protective cards like Gideon of the Trials and the Coursers to kind of get us into the late game where some of our other cards can take over. We have one additional Detention Sphere for all kinds of permanent based hate, and same with an Engineered Explosive, just to help us from getting run over or to allow us to deal with some pesky problem permanents. So, oh, and one Logic Knot here that was hidden. So we do have one additional counterspell in the main deck, leaving us with 1 Knot, 2 Cryptic, 1 Mana Leak, 1 Negate as our counter suite, with 1 additional Negate that we can bring in out of the board. So this deck is probably a little weaker against the Control Mirror, if I had to guess. Although maybe these extra Planeswalkers might help us kind of cross the finish line there. But and of course the spicy one of here, a nice Time Warp. This can either help us to just in desperation mode, tap 5 mana, get another turn, hope to draw into what we need, or at its best, it is so of course, yeah, the floor of the Time Warp is pretty much just a 5 mana Explore, whereas the ceiling is quite high. If we have 1 or more Planeswalkers in play, you can generate a lot of value very quickly with a well-placed Time Warp. And of course, 1 Snapcaster Mage, we can snap it back. If you're at the point in the game where you're snapping Time Warp out of your graveyard, you're probably in a pretty good spot. So overall, as a whole, again, we're kind of this just looks like a fun deck. We want to run it just to see what it does. And I do not think that it in any way kind of supplants blue-white in what it's trying to do. It's just attacking from a different angle. So we're going, oftentimes when you're good deck building is to add, especially when you're considering adding another color, is asking yourself, well, what problems does the addition of this color or does the addition of this card, what problems are you looking to solve with those things? So again, adding Snake Shamans and another Planeswalker to our deck. So I guess they might make us a little more resilient in the early to mid game to get us to where we want to go. But is that worth the more inconsistent mana base? Is it worth the more painful mana base? I don't know. Well, I guess the verdict is still out on that. But either way, I hope we're going to be in for some really interesting games, and I hope that you enjoy this this next league here. So, alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in Game 1.